Kalina Morrison.
Thank you. According to the Sexual Violence and Transgender Community Survey, 1 in 2 transgender individuals are sexually abused or assaulted at some point in their lives. Some reports even estimate this number to be as high as 66%, with the most impacted communities being transgender youth, transgender people of color, individuals living with disabilities, homeless individuals, and those involved in the sex trade. In 2015 alone, 19 trans women in the United States have been murdered. This is a state of emergency. The fact that the majority of trans individuals are dealing with the aftermath of sexual assault trauma has an enormous impact on the community as a whole. This also indicates that most of the trans community is living in fear of possible repeat victimization. Sisterly Love, a Philadelphia-based community organization for trans women, determined that collective trauma history was one of the main barriers that prevent trans women from building sisterhood and being in community together. Part of the problem is that trans communities, particularly trans women that are hypersexualized by society, are further victimized by a rape culture that tells them that they are responsible for their own sexual assault. This victim blaming that occurs creates an atmosphere of distrust in the police, which leads to most sexual assaults perpetrated against trans women to go unreported. Until today, I had never spoke of it, but I was one of those people that didn't go to the police when I was sexually assaulted. In 2010, I was working as a bartender in West Philly. There was a man that would come into the bar and would often make advances toward me, which I would consistently decline. One night when I was taking the bus home after a late night shift, I noticed he was on the bus with me. As I got off the bus and began walking home, he began to make more advances towards me, saying things like, "Can I holler at you?" The last thing I remember saying is, "No thanks, I'm good," before regaining consciousness behind a building. As I began trying to walk home, I even walked past a police station covered in blood. But the thought of going to the police was never an option for me. The fact that going to the police never even crossed my mind says a lot and represents the way many trans women feel about reporting abuse. In a time when men can use things like trans panic defenses, which until recently was a perfectly permissible defense argument that states men are justified in using violence if they find out that a person they're having sex with is trans, to justify violence against trans women. Because of this, it makes sense that some trans women wouldn't feel safe about reporting their abuse. I was targeted by my attacker because I'm a woman and because I am trans. While public perception around LGBTQ communities is shifting, the world remains a largely unsafe place for LGBTQ individuals, particularly for trans communities of color. It is estimated that 68% of sexual assaults go unreported. We can safely assume that this number is significantly higher in trans communities. Reporting a sexual assault is often not a safe option for many communities that have been historically mistreated by police systems. It is important to become an advocate for those who are most vulnerable and support communities in creating their own way to keep each other safe. As women, we must no longer be silent. Our silence allows our perpetrators to walk away free, never to be held accountable for what they've done. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the speaking portion of this event. But our next performance is going to be a dance troupe called the Revolutionary Vagine, a women's revolutionary vagine. So what I need everybody to do before we can start this